Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. In this opportunity, we are from first group want to present about describing learners. So this is our content. The first is with age, the second is learners difference, the third is language levels, and the fourth is motivation. And before going to our presentation, I will introduce my team. The first members is me, Nurul Aulia. The second members is Septya Dwi Utari. The third member is Fadhila R Jafar. And the fourth member is Agil Maarif. And then this is our presentation. Hello everyone, my name is Nurul Aulia. So here I would like to explain about the age. So the age is the major factor of teacher to decide how to teach the student and what to teach the student, because people with different age have different needs, competence, and then cognitive. So after this, I will explain about the group of language learners. The first is the young children, and young children always respond the meaning of even even if they didn't understand individual words, and they always display enthusiasm in learning, and then they have a curiosity with the word around them, and then they often learn indirectly rather than directly, because they can take information from all sides, and then they can learn from anything around them rather than on focusing on one topic. And then their understanding comes not just for in one explanation, but also the understanding came from the what they see and what they heard, and then what they interact with, and then they have a need attention and approval from the teachers, and they are keen to talk about themselves and respond well to learning, and they have a limited attention span, because the young children have a little bit have young children easy the characteristics of adolescents. They understand the need to learning, and they try to set the right goal for their future and try to be responsible of what they have decided to, and what have they done. And adolescent being to question who they are, what they are, and what they should. Adolescent begins to question who they are and what they should be, that should do with their lives, and then they always try to become better everyday planning and making decision making, and then they try to be capable of understanding the consequence of their behavior and planning for the future. And also teenagers, adolescents search for an identity, and they need peer approval, so that they need to have self-esteem for themselves. So the third is adult learners, and the characteristics of adult learners, the first is they can engage with abstract thought, because usually adults must have critical thinking. They have critical thinking from what they have read, what their view about the problem, and what they can get it from the experience before, so that they can the thinking, the thought not came from one expert, but from the others experts. And then they have a whole range of life experience to draw on, of course, because the adults have um, a lot of experience before, so they can set the pattern for their learning. And then they have expectation about learning process, and already have their own pattern of learning, because they have own pattern learning. They can easily get understand to, and then set their learning goals to reach their goals in learning. And then after that, adults also more disciplined than teenagers, of course, because adults have a lot of spend a lot of time in another activity, and they have a lot of responsibility, so that they have a lot of time on that. So they have a little time for learning, and then they have to manage their time, and then so that they must be disciplined. So the adults also come into classroom with a rich range of experience, because they have a lot of experience, so they can apply the learning patterns or the learning ways into the classroom, and then they have a clear understanding of what they are learning and what they want to get out of it. Of course, because learning in adults learners must have goals for learning, so that they must reach the goals. Thank you, and the next explanation from Septya Dwi Utari.
Hi, my name is Septya Dwi Utari. I will explain my part a little. First, aptitude and intelligence reflects the individual's person for success. In some cases, aptitude and intelligence test results are considered an indication of innate capacity. An example of an aptitude test that is done is an IQ test. And some students are better at learning a language than others. First, problems with IQ tests that favor analytic learner. Analytical aptitude may not be an important factor in success, because someone who has views on various things has less developed analytical abilities. According to Peter Scahan, for example, believed that what distinguishes exceptional students from the rest is that they have unusual memories, particularly for the retention of things that they hear. By differentiating like this, students who have low aptitude test scores will lose motivation and are at risk of failure, and they will usually feel inferior. And this advantage of IQ test, self-fulfilling prophecies. Students may become demotivated. With this, they will feel like a failure and feel unintelligent due to IQ results that do not match. Okay, next. Good learner characteristics. According Neil Neyman, tolerance of ambiguity, positive task orientation, ego involvement, and high aspirations, goal orientation, and perseverance. So, if we narrow down the number of characters that all good students have, then we might be able to cultivate these characteristics in our students. Like someone who is persistent in something will develop the characteristics of a good student. And according to Joan Rabin, students who can find their own way without being guided, independent, and seek their own opportunities for practice. This aim to see tolerance and development towards students through the independent attitude and studying hard will create his own way out independently. So, student will not depend on other people. They can stand alone.
Hello, I'm Fadhila R Jafar, and I want to explain about another part of learner difference. Okay, learner style and strategy. Tony Wright described four different styles within a group. The first one is the enthusiast. The enthusiast look at the teacher as a point of reference and is concerned with the learning goals. Okay, the second is the oracular. The oracular also focuses on the group but is more oriented towards the satisfaction of personal goals. The second is the participator. The participator tends to concentrate with on goals, group goals and group solidarity. And the last is the rebel. The rebel mainly concentrate with the satisfaction of her own goals. Okay, Kate will link suggested for different categories. The first one is the convergence. Prefer solitary than groups, independent, confident in their own abilities, analytical, and pragmatic. The second is the conformist. The conformist prefer to emphasize learning about language over to use it. Dependent, perfectly happy to work in a communicative classroom, refers to civil organization terms. And the second is the concrete learner. The concrete learner enjoy the social aspect of learning, like to learn from direct experience, interested in language use and language as communication rather than language as a system, enjoy games and group work in a class. And less is communicative learners. Language use oriented, comfortable out of class and show a degree of confidence. And the next is individual variation. Individual variation have a two theory. The first theory is neuro-linguistic programming or NLP, described as a facet. A facet is a visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. And NLP is namely the student of the structure of human behavior, studying how language is able to influence paradigms, ways of thinking, and our daily behaviors. Okay, I will give example. Okay, the word of difficult. In general, this word refers to something that is not easy to solve, and the body will give up to finish whatever by meant by difficult. And okay, the task is indeed difficult to carry out. You can replace the word of difficult to the challenge, and it becomes this task is indeed a challenge to carry out. How is it different? Okay, the second theory is multiple intelligence theory or MI theory. It is a concept introduced by Harvard psychology Howard Gardner, and he argues that intelligence is not a single ability but several abilities that are relatively unrelated to one another. And there are seven intelligence such as musical, verbal, visual, bodily, logical, intrapersonal, and interpersonal. And so obviously, everyone has a combination of intelligence and different from one another. Even two identical twins may not have the same level of intelligence in one's other. And what to do about individual difference? We can simply do observation or talk more formally case. We may ask students what their learning preferences are and questionnaires with items, or we may try to find out which favorite sensory system our student respond to. Thank you.
My name is Agil Maarif. In this occasion, I will deliver the material about the language level. The language level is the standardization to determine how the person influence the foreign language. Each country has standardization to goal improve the ability of the language, and the level language has three various. The first is the beginner level is the interest for students with a little or no pure exposure to a language. And the participant will learn to learn and write and acquire the skill. Need to consume simple conversation and concerning daily need. Students has the building of vocabulary base, and they are introduced to basic grammar and syntax structure. Students can understand a sentence and frequently use expression to relate to area the most intimate relevance. For example, is a very basic personal and the family information, shopping, the local geography, and improvement. They are can communication in simple and routine tasks requiring a simple and direct and exchange of the information on familiar and routine um, can describe in simple term personal background and intermediate environment and explain matter of the urgent need. And the next level is intermediate. Students entering level 2 should be able and study routine social demand, speak with some clarity, and read and write simple text. And this level teaches the participant confidence skill that enable them and understand most non-technical conversation. In my opinion, video tapes and newspaper are frequently utilized to reinforce oral and writing comprehension skill. Students gain increased confidence in grammar and syntax, and the strong emphasis and the place on the expanding to vocabulary base. By the end this level, students should be able to speak with sufficient structural accuracy and the participant at the most informal conversation with easy. And the students also learn English proverbs and expression and how employ them in the appropriate context. And the last level is advanced. Uh, Level advanced, the participant should be able to speak and with confidence and clearly the most situation and be capable on the reading and write defending subject with relative easy. Uh, the level advanced, my opinion, students level improves over reading comprehension and advanced writing skill, translating technique, continue vocabulary acquisition, and news and newspaper and books and the longer texts are introduced frequently for the class work and home study. And then students who successfully complete um, in this level because students should process language skill accessible and everyday professional use. And the last material is the methodology, and the mind is to improve the students' communication skill. The expenses of the classroom activities is therefore the development of the students' ability to speak and understand spoken English language. For this reason, class the condition entirely the target language. The students are given friendly an opportunity to practice the sort of the language they are likely to need outside in the classroom. And we don't judge, we want students to know their target language because we want them to able to use it. And the school pay attention to grammar, vocabulary, reading and writing skill. And I invite the material are used, including publish the material from many different sources. And sometimes schools will use the material which have been written and their own teacher, and students who attend private and class will have course the material design specifically to meet their particular, and the teacher and the course programmer are carefully specified by the director of the study, who is also responsible for ensuring that students are present are the for ensuring that students are placed in the appropriate level and their progress and the satisfactory successfully, while the atmosphere in the classroom is generally relaxed and informal. This is my opinion. And students should be prepared to work hard and participate fully, and students feel very happy. Thank you.
Definition motivation. First, motivation is a kind of internal drive that encourages someone to do something to achieve something. So, in this case, motivation really needs to be instilled in students in order to create enthusiasm for achieving some things. And then, according to Brown, include the need for ego enhancements as the main motivator. It is a need to be recognized and approved by others. And then, motivation become action. In this state, motivation will provoke oneself to act, so that there is effort in intellectual or physical matters. Thank you.
Okay, and the effect from Harmer, a good teacher is someone who asks the people who don't always pat their hands up, and good teacher is someone who knows our names. When students feel that the teacher has little interest in them or is unprepared to make the effort to treat them with consideration, they will have a little incentive to remain motivated when the teacher is caring and helpful. However, they are much more likely to retain an interest in what is going on, and as a result, their self-esteem, an important ingredient in success, is likely to be nurtured. Under Harmer's theory, affect, agency, achievement, attitude, and activities are all crucial aspects of motivation. And to focus on improving affect positive, teachers can try to minimize their time spent as controllers, introduce more colorful and carefully chosen colors of a classroom decoration, and aim for more activity and class discussion on topic that the students find interesting independent of their language learning. And the first one is the activities. To improve motivation with activities, teachers should attempt to strike a balance between challenge and exhaustion. Very simple activity will not motivate the student and will cause effect to decrease if used after students have proclaimed them to be too easy, or if used frequently. And the next is achievement. To improve motivation via achievement, teacher must first determine what kind of achievement is important to their student. In some classrooms, stickers, especially shiny or scented stickers, are sufficient to motivate students to achieve good grades. And the next is agency. Agency and attitude are the hardest aspect of Harmer's motivational theory for a teacher to influence, because these largely come from other aspect of the student's life outside the classroom. And being able outside of class for students to talk to can certainly help with these things, but there is only so much that would be appropriate for a teacher to help with in many cases.
Okay guys, do you have question? If you have question, please drop your question on the YouTube comment section. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.